Time now to delve into the Sunday papers. Here with me to review them this morning are the author and journalist Gemma Forte and the author and broadcaster Emma Wolfe. So very good morning to both of you. Lovely to see you both. Loads of stories around, as often happens with the Sunday papers. The Mail on Sunday has a big splash, doesn't it, Emma? Kremlin hacked Truss's mobile. Some of that in inverted commas on their headline.
Yeah, this is Gemma's choice.
Oh, Gemma, apologies, over to you.
Anna, it's very early and you've got Gemma and Emma, so it's absolutely fine. Okay, so this is a pretty shocking story. This goes back to when Truss was Foreign Secretary and her phone was hacked, we think, by the Kremlin. And Johnson was Prime Minister at the time and was told, and himself and Simon Case decided to put out a full news blackout, which is extraordinarily worrying angle to this story. So apparently within this phone, that she'd had the same phone number for years and years and years, and within it there were private messages to Kwasi Kwarteng, apparently some of them criticising Boris Johnson, which could be used for blackmail, of course, but more worryingly as well, there was a lot of correspondence between Truss and international allies about the situation in Ukraine. So an absolutely awful security breach. But as I say, the security breach happened, and then to cover it up is a real worry because it raises so many questions about the party putting their interests before national security and before the interests of the country. Apparently Liz Truss didn't sleep for a long time until Johnson said, don't worry about it, we're not going to tell anybody, and the phone has been placed in a safe somewhere. So it's not great, this story, for the government, because despite this being back then, what happened, if this story had come out at the time, there's no way Liz Truss could have gone for the leadership role, and of course she did and crashed the economy. So not a great chain of events, and also it comes off the back of there being, well, our Home Secretary having the nickname Leaky Sue, and some serious question marks over her integrity and her security breaches as well. Not great.
Well, yes, that's right. And a government spokesman has said that they don't comment on individual security arrangements. They claim the government's got robust systems in place to protect against cyber threats. That includes regular security briefings for ministers and advice on protecting their personal data. But I'm sure we will hear a lot more about this, won't we? And also about that decision by Boris Johnson for the news not to come out. So one to watch, certainly. So let's move on now. And Emma, you've picked out the Observer's front page next. And this is sort of more conversation about COP27 and who's going to go. And they have word that 2 prime ministers ago now, Boris Johnson will go.
Exactly, not even the former Prime Minister, but the former Prime Minister. So in case we thought we'd heard the last of Boris Johnson, Anna, this is the Observer reporting that the former but one Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is planning to attend COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in November. And this is being seen as a major snub to Rishi Sunak, but also more sort of importantly, an implicit criticism of Rishi Sunak's decision not to attend. Number 10 have been saying that his in-tray is very full, which, yes, we can understand that his in-tray is very full indeed. But I think it's not only raises questions about Rishi Sunak's commitment to tackling climate change, and we'll see this across the papers sort of bubbling up in different stories, but also an indication, I think, that Boris Johnson is keen to maintain and to boost his profile, an indication that he's not going away that easily. I mean, in one way, it makes sense. He is already firmly on the international speaking circuit, and COP is it's a bit like Davos in that, it's not just an environmental summit. It's movers and shakers in that field. It's, we know that Boris Johnson's wife, Carrie, is extremely committed to environmental campaigning. And we know that Boris loves a bit of glad handing and, he likes being on the international stage. So it makes sense in many ways. But I think overall, it raises questions. It makes Rishi Sunak's position quite uncomfortable. I wonder whether he's going to U-turn, because at the present moment, we have the Prime Minister and the King of the United Kingdom not attending. And I think that raises real questions. What message is that sending about the UK's commitment to climate change.
And also, he gets criticism, doesn't he, in the Sunday Times, an interview with Alok Sharma, the COP26 president, no longer in the cabinet under Rishi Sunak. He criticising that decision for Rishi Sunak not to go. So this issue is still very live at the moment, and we may hear more. In the meantime, let's move on, shall we, Gemma, to the Independent next. They are... their headline is "Voters Call for Election Now Growing." So what evidence have they got of that those calls increasing?
Apparently MPs across the House, if you like, have had their inboxes flooded from constituents saying that at this stage they would like to express their democratic right of what's going on and have a general election. And of course the pressure was building after those awful scenes in Parliament, which ended up with Liz Truss's resignation, that vote of no confidence that wasn't a vote of no confidence. Do you remember with Coffey and Rees-Mogg manhandling politicians to go and vote? And so there has been a lot of pressure. And of course, Rishi Sunak has got this unbelievable job on his hands, but he came out, talking about integrity and professionalism, and already, we've got all these stories that perhaps go against that. And is he going to be able to unite the sort of warring factions within the party? That has to be done, because as it stands, the fact that Johnson's going to go off to COP, he knows that's not helpful to Sunak. So you've got the sort of Johnson contingent, then you've got the ERG contingent, the sort of more extreme right side of the party, then you've got sort of the moderates. You've got all these different parties within the party. Can Rishi Sunak unite them? Because I think they're on thin ice. How many more crises are we away from there really being no more excuses and it having to go to the public for a general election?
Yeah, and his message to MPs when he took over was unite or die, wasn't it? He's very mindful of this, so we'll see whether he does manage to hold everything together. Let's move on, Emma, to the Sunday Express next. Their headline is "Rishi sinks Boris yacht," axing what was quite an expensive project, apparently.
Yeah, so we just spoke about COP27, and now this is a snub from the other side. This is Rishi taking a counter snub at Boris. He's axing the £250 million flagship yacht, which Boris was intending as an emblem of Britain's global power. It's sort of seen as a national flagship to drum up trade, although I'm not really sure how you drum up trade by just having an amazing ship. But anyway, it was also going to double as a replacement for the Royal Yacht Britannia. But obviously with the focus very much on, well, not austerity, but cutbacks and spending cuts coming up in the autumn statement in November, this was seen as a vanity project. And despite the fact that Rishi Sunak could probably pay for this with his, with spare change, I think he's much more focused on the PR aspect of not spending vast quantities of money, millions of pounds at least, on these kind of vanity projects, when he's also going to have to make some pretty tough decisions about cuts to public services and things like that. So the vanity yacht is being axed for now.
And we've got about 30 seconds. Gemma, very quick look at the Sun on Sunday. Simon Cowell crediting his son with saving him.
Yes, a little heartwarming story to end this section. Just saying he was a complete and utter workaholic before the birth of his son. All he would do really was sort of focus on ratings and the nitty-gritty behind X Factor, and his son has changed his outlook completely. So I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, a bit of work-life balance and how children tend to bring your focus back to what's important.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for lifting our spirits briefly amidst a day of tough news. Gemma and Emma, we'll see you again in an hour. Thank you.